So I've shared photos of these little shoes that I've made a number of times, and quite a few people were interested in finding out how to make them. So if I just show you what I've got so far. These are the pairs of little tiny shoes. You can see them there. So lots of people were interested how to make them, so I thought I would do a quick tutorial. And as you can see, I've made little boxes to go with the shoes as well. Oops. Here's a box that I haven't used yet. This is just made out of pictures out of a plant magazine. Haven't used that one yet. So I'll show you how to make the shoes in this video, and then I've made another video on how to make the shoe boxes. So here's the pattern. I've got it here. Now the pattern that you receive is a bit posher than this one. It's actually printed out properly and things, rather than handwriting, they're actually written out properly on the computer. So we need to start with drawing out our pattern onto our leather. Okay, so I've got this scrap of leather that I'm going to be using. You only need a little bit, obviously. So each of these pieces, you need to cut out 2 of them. Okay, obviously if you only want to make one shoe, then you don't need to. Just cut out 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a normal pen, and I'm literally going to hold it on there and just draw around it. Make sure that your line is really bold and you can see it properly. I just draw around that, and they're not left and right, so you can just move it to one side and then draw out another one. And all of these pieces on this suede side of the leather aren't going to be seen. If you felt like it, you could mark them as outer sole or inner sole or whatever you wanted to write. So here's the smaller ones. So we're going to draw out 2 of those. There's one. And another. So you just go through, draw around these, 2 of those. Bit tricky because you have to kind of hold it in place. So I'm sorry, it's probably a little difficult to see on the video what I'm doing here. Okay, there's 1. And 2. Draw all around the pattern. So we've got 2 of those, and now the straps are a little bit fiddly, but what I tend to do, if I'm not stuck for leather, but if you've only got a smaller scrap of leather and you want to save a bit of space, you can actually lay it inside that one that you've done there. I don't know if you can see that. You can lay it inside, draw around it, and I tend to, although the pattern shape is this long, I tend to add on a little bit of extra length just because, so I kind of overshoot the pattern just because it gives you a little bit of leeway in case there's any difference in how you want to add the strap. Okay, so that's all our pieces cut out, and I would suggest, if I was you, finding yourself a little bag to put your pieces in as soon as you've done your marking out, because they are tiny and they will go astray. So I basically just chuck them straight into a little Ziploc bag, put them to one side. So straight away I'm just going to mark 2 dots on each end of these extended bits. So just for clarification, these are the outer soles, these are the inner soles, these are the uppers, and these are the straps. Okay, so the rounded end is where the button is going to go, and this end is going to attach to the other side of the shoe. Okay, so what you'll do now, this is a bit tricky for me because my hands don't work very well. I've got arthritis and I get a lot of pain, so whenever I'm doing a video I have to wait until I've got a better day for my hands to work properly. That's why I'm not wearing my wrist guard on this hand, because I need to be able to cut these things out. You don't have to cut the outer sole out very carefully because that's going to get trimmed afterwards anyway, but all of your other pieces need to be cut out properly, and I cut on the line, so that's the best guide, is cut on the line. And cut out all of your pieces. Getting a message. Okay, so carry on and cut out all of your pieces. I've got some over here that I've already cut out because I thought it would save a little bit of time. Okay, so here's my pieces that I've cut out already. Just put that away. I'm going to keep those outer soles because sometimes on a few pairs I've added extra bits, extra outer soles, so I've got another extra layer, so I'll keep those. So I've already made one of the shoes, but I won't show you that just yet. We'll carry on with this for now. We don't need the outer soles until later, so I'm going to put them in a bowl over there. Okay, so this is the basics of what we need to make a shoe. So the strap is there. So this is a button. I've just drawn it out, haven't cut it out yet because it's easier to keep hold of. So we've got the inner sole, the strap, the button, and the upper. So what we're going to do first is we're going to sew together the upper and the inner sole. But what we're going to do, rather than just trying to punch the needle straight through it, because that, well, it kills my hands. I don't know if it would be bad for your hands, but it really hurts my hands. I can't do it. So what I do is I tend to punch the holes first of all. And how I'm going to do that is with this here. Okay, I'm going to use this to punch the holes. Now you have to make sure that you put the same amount of holes in the upper as the inner sole. And I don't tend to worry about it too much because it kind of, you know, all comes out in the end, and it's not like you're going to be wearing these and it's going to be hurting your feet or anything. So I don't go too mad over making sure I get them exactly right. But it works out about 28 holes, not including the 2 at the back, that you want to put in to sew those 2 pieces together. So just roughly, I put it on this little piece of foam so that this can dig through better. So I'm going to put one at the front, so I dig it in, right, okay, and I'm just going to work my way round each side and punch the holes in there. So you're basically going to do 12 each side, well, apart from you've got one in the centre as well. So if you work your way around and punch those holes, okay, so what have I done there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, but that is including that one in the centre. So you'll want to do the same on this one. Okay, so I'm going to do I'm just going to do an extra one at the bottom here and here, and those extra ones are what you'll use to put those two sides together. So in total I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, oh, 23 holes. There you go. So basically make sure you put the same amount on each one, on your sole and on your upper. So I'm going to put one in the centre. Okay, and now the other side. There we go. Hands hurting now. So you should have the same amount of holes in your sole and your upper. Okay. So while we're at it, we may as well put our 2 holes in the end of the strap here. We could actually do the same in the button as well, even though we haven't cut the button out yet. Might as well just chuck a couple of holes in there for now. Okay, we're going to put those 2 things aside because this is what we're going to work with. Okay, can you see those? I hope so. Oh, I'm a bit far over. Next, we've got to choose a needle that we're going to use. I'll get one out of my sewing set. So I'll choose that one for the actual sewing and this one. Okay, so what I've got here, 2 needles. I've got one that's quite fine and I've got one that's quite a bit thicker. With the thicker needle, I'm just going to go through each of these holes to make sure that they're fully open, because when you're sewing round you don't want to be having to really push that needle through. So I'm just going to go around and make sure that this thicker needle is going to go through each of the holes, and then when you come to sew with the thinner needle you'll find that the needle will go through more easily the first time round. When you come to the second time around it's a little bit more tricky. So I'm just going around poking this needle through each of these holes to open it up just a bit. If you wanted to, you could push it through and pull the eye through as well to make it slightly bigger, but I don't, I just push it through a little bit. So you do that to each. I think I'm back to the beginning again now. Put that to one side and now do the same with this one. Through each of those holes. Let's give my hands a little stretch. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to put this away so that I know where to find it when I need it next. Okay, so let's talk about what we're sewing it with. So can't see that. I use these. They're crochet cottons, and basically I find that they're really useful because they're really strong, they're proper cotton, and they're a perfect thickness for what we want to do. You can get them in loads and loads of different colours. I'm going to use the pink one today because that's what I used to make the other shoe with. We may as well keep them slightly like a pair. So grab yourself off quite a length of that. Let's put that there. Take this off from when I did the other shoe. Oh. So I'm going to thread the needle. So if you've done leather work before, you might know of the way of sewing leather where you use 2 needles, 1 needle attached to each end. You can actually do that with this, but I prefer to do it with 1 needle, do a running stitch, and then go back round and do the second side. I much prefer that. So first of all, we're going to sew the 2 back holes together at the top there. You can see those little holes, and what I'm going to do, so we go in 1 hole, okay, and then this is going to be tricky to see. Just go in 1 hole at the top, out the other side at the top, pull it through. Don't know why it's being difficult, but there we go. Okay, leave yourself a tail, and then you go back through there and then back through the top hole, if you can see it. And once you pull it together, it pulls it into a little shoe shape, so you can see that the back is now joined. So let's pull that thread through there. If you wanted to, you could go over that again so that it's double, but I don't bother, I just do it once. Okay, so now you're at the back of the shoe. So what you're going to do, you're going to put this so that it's leather side to the inside of the shoe. Okay, so you go in through this hole right at the back, and that starts to pull it together. So there's your first stitch there. Okay, so then that pulls that together. So then you're going to come up through the hole next to that one, and then up through the hole in the upper as well. And this is fiddly and it is tricky, but once you get going it becomes a lot more straightforward. Okay, and you start to hold that in position. So next you'll go down the hole next to it and you'll start to see your running stitch happen. Okay, and then up through the next stitch. It's tricky to see on suede. And you just keep going round. If I can see where it is. My hands are not good. And again down. If I just show you that, you can see the running stitch start to appear. And then once we've gone all the way around, we'll work our way all the way back again, and that will fill in those extra holes. Those extra stitches that aren't there at the moment. You'll see what I mean when we get there. And just keep pulling it reasonably tight as you go. And you'll see that it starts to pull the upper into shape. This annoying bit, this little tail, keeps getting in the way, but you'll need that for tying off later, so don't cut it off. Because you used a needle, a large needle, to push it through, it's going through quite easy at the minute. On the way back round it's not quite as easy because obviously you've got the thickness of the thread in there as well. This isn't as easy to see on camera as my usual projects because my usual projects are a bit bigger. Oh, see, look, I've done that wrong. I've gone around instead of through there. So I'm going to take that off, pull it back through. Okay, so make sure when you get to this bit that the shoe is folded over at the back, or else it's not going to look quite right. Pull it tight so that that goes in there. You can put your thumb inside so that it pulls it in place. Okay. And then I go back through this hole here. And this is where you make sure you've got the same amount of holes all the way around, or else they don't quite match up and you'll have an extra hole or something at the other side. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back up through this hole, because we're going to fill in those gaps now. So I've come up next to a running stitch, if you can see that. And then you're going to go down next to the next stitch. So you're going through the same holes, but you're filling in these gaps in the running stitch. Now once you get to this stage, it's a little bit harder for me to pull the needle through. So what I do, I've got a pair of pliers so that I can pull the needle through with less pain on my hands. That really does help. And you'll just carry on and do that till you get back round to the beginning again. Some of the holes it's easier to pull it through, some of them are a bit tricky. By the time you've made a pair of these, your fingers will burn. But if you've got a pair of pliers, make use of them. It's really worth doing. And so you'll see the difference in the running stitch, if you can see that there. And just carry on like that till you get back round to the beginning again. It's slightly easier in one way when you're doing this bit, because you're not fishing around trying to find the holes where the thread goes, because you can see from where the previous thread went. So now what I want to do is get it so that the knot, when I tie it off, is going to be underneath the shoe, so that will be hidden inside. Once I can get this so that it's not all knotted up. Oh, and I've just noticed that this thread is on the inside of the shoe. I actually want it to be through and out the other side. So hopefully what I can do is thread it onto here. And then through one of the holes I can probably just push it through. So that both threads are coming out underneath, like that. So, I don't know why this one isn't quite lining up as it normally does, but there we go. So pull your short thread tight, and then you can pull your longer one tight, and then I'm going to cut that off so I don't have to do so much fiddling around with it. I'm going to tie that in a good strong knot. just going to cut those off, get rid of those. So at the moment you can see that it's a bit of a weird flat shape at the moment, but we'll sort that out in a little while. So at this point you can sew on your strap now if you want to, or you can sew it on after the next step. I'm going to actually sew it on now with the button. There's the button, there's the strap. So I'm going to cut out the button. These are tiny fiddly bits. You can actually buy little tiny buttons for this sort of thing. Ooh, this one's a bit of an egg shape. Let's give it a bit of a trim. Okay, so we've got a button, whoops, a strap and a shoe. On all the other pairs I've made the button a different colour so that it stands out. So up to you. You can do that if you want to. So I'm just going to go back over these holes. So you want 2 at the end of the strap that's going to go onto the shoe, and you need 2 where the button's going to go, and then 2 holes in the button. I did actually make some holes in the button, but because I did them on the other side, you can't really see them. Okay, so what do I need? I need some more thread. I'm not going to do it too long, so I don't want to have to deal with too much of it. So thread your needle. So if we oh, hang on, we have to do the holes in the side of the shoe as well, don't we? Forgot about that bit. So now we've got to just make 2 holes in the side of the shoe. I mean, you can even do this bit before you even sew the shoe together if you prefer. In fact, I think I've done that on a few pairs. Done the holes previously. So 1, 2, and then on the other side. Give it a little go through there. And again next to it. Okay, so we're ready to add our strap on. So what we're going to do, we're going to go from the inside of the shoe and then up through the strap, down again, leave yourself a nice tail to turn and to tie a knot, and then I like to go back through again. Bit fiddly. Back out again. And back to the inside of the shoe again. pull it quite tight. Then you can cut off the excess. So you're going to tie a knot in this now so that the strap is attached to the shoe. We're going to snip that off. You can just blob a little tiny bit of glue on any of these knots that we've done if you prefer. Okay. I think we've probably got just about enough thread on there. So again, from the inside of the shoe, you're going to come through to the outside. Through to the outside, up through the strap, up through one of the holes in the button, down through the other hole in the button, down through the other hole in the strap, and then down and come out on the inside of the shoe again. Again, you can repeat that if you want to, but I'm not going to bother here. So then you can take that off, cut these to a reasonable length to tie with. Need to get these both around the same side. And then obviously tie these off in a knot again. And then trim those off. They're not quite as close as they could be, but I'm not fussed about that. Okay, so there we've got our little shoe. And at the moment, it's all a bit flat and not very nicely shaped. And the ones that we've made here have got nice rounded toes. So, how we do that, let me put this needle away, don't want it to get lost. Okay, so there's our little shoe. So what I'm going to do next, I've got a little dish, and I'm going to get one of my drinks flasks. I'm going to pour a tiny little bit of water, don't need a lot, into my dish. Pour myself out a drink while I'm at it. And I've got a few sheets of toilet roll. You can use toilet roll, kitchen roll, whatever, and just tear yourself some smaller pieces. Tear yourself a load of these. Okay, so then what we're going to do is just dampen them. We're going to tuck them inside the shoe. Now you can, if you want to, you can sew the strap on after this bit if you want to. I like to do it now, but so what you're going to do is just put in as many of those as you can pack in. And this is nice and soft, and it will really squash in there, and you'll be able to shape how you want your shoes to be. So and it gets the shoes really wet, and that's fine. You want them to get quite wet. And can you see already the shoe has started to take a rounded shape, but that's not enough yet. You want to keep going, put in lots of paper, and you'll shape the whole shoe in this way. And already they're starting to look a much better shape. You can even tuck your nail into there so that that bit stays nice and flat. But just do whatever you need to do to get the shoe to be the shape that you want it to be. All tucked out nicely. And like I say, it doesn't matter how wet it gets, that's absolutely not a problem. You want it to get nice and damp. Okay, and then just form it into the shape you want it to be. And I would say pack in quite a lot if you can. It's better to have more in than not a lot. Okay. Even, you know, tuck some underneath here as well. Can you see that bit sort of going in a little bit? Just poke it out. Okay, and here they're starting to take on a much better shape. So what you're going to do, once you've done that, you're going to put it to one side and you're going to have to leave it for 24 hours. Basically, it has to completely dry. Then, once it's dry, here we have one that I've prepared earlier. Once it has dried, it'll be a really nice shape like this. You can see it's nice and rounded. You can see exactly what it looks like. And then we can pull out all of this tissue that's dried inside. See, there's quite a few chunks in there that I put in there yesterday. Okay, so there you have the shape of your nice shoe. So, get rid of these. They'll go in my waste paper basket in a minute, because I've had to move my waste paper basket to fit the camera and things in. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to get the outer sole of the ones that we made cut out earlier. So we've got a few here. I'll just show you these. So what we've got, this is an outer sole, and we're going to glue it. It's up to you. You can do it which way. I like to have leather on the outside rather than the suede side. So we're going to glue the shoe to the outer, and like I say, you can do one or you can do 2 layers depending on what you want it to be like. The glue that I'm using is this Impex high tack glue. I mean, I've found that it's been really good for this. It does say on the bottle that it can be used for most fabrics, including cotton, synthetics, leather, suede, ribbons, etc. So that's what I used. So you're going to spread, once you can get it out, a decent layer of this glue over the bottom of the shoe. So there we go, bottom of the shoe, both sides, so on the sole and on the shoe itself. I get a bit of toilet roll ready and then just spray it on, spread it on, spread all over the bottom of the shoe. You don't want it too thick, but you want to make sure there's a decent covering. And just stand it to one side, and the same again. On the outer shoe as well. Just going to stand it down there while I do it. There we go. I'll use a bit of this to wipe my fingers with. So it says that you should leave that for 10 minutes before you stick them together. So we'll just give it a little 10-minute break. That's been about 10 minutes, didn't time it, but you know. So then we're just going to get our shoe and stick it on. That's why I said it doesn't really matter with the outer sole if you don't cut it exactly, because you're going to be trimming off a lot of this anyway. And then, what did I use before? I think it was a pencil. I just got a pencil inside and squashed it on to the outer sole. Obviously, the big shoe, you could use something to really stick it down, but it's not going to be possible with this. And then I would leave that for another 24 hours. At this stage, if you want to, you could stick on another one if you wanted it double. I think I've done that on a few pairs, but I would leave that at least, I suppose, to the end of the day to stick down properly, and then once all that glue is completely dry, I would then trim off all the excess, and then you'll have a little pair of shoes. This tissue paper, because I don't know if you remember with shoe shops, your shoes used to come all rolled up like this, and you'd have a piece of tissue paper. This tissue paper is from a dressmaking pattern. Got a few little hearts in there for some reason too. But these little shoes, I saw them first on Frog and Toad knitted by Dot Pebbles, and I just thought they were so cute. I wanted little shoes, but I didn't know where to get them from, so I made some. I've got no reason to make them, I've got nothing to put them on, but I just thought they were so cute. So look, see these buttons, these are really tiny on this pair, and that's got extra layers on as well. So there they are. If you want to make some, go ahead, be great. The pattern's available. If you want to like and subscribe, that would be really nice. And if you found the video useful, then you can buy me a coffee for £3 whole, and that would also be really nice. Thanks.